Take a break. Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? All right. So I asked in the chat, what is a URL shortener service that you may have used? We got an answer, Bitly. Bitly indeed is a very good universal URL shortener that's quite popular out there, right? Anybody else got anything? I personally have used one that GitHub used to have anyways. It's called git.io. You can shorten any URL for your GitHub project. That was really cool. And we got Rash here. Glad to use your GoDaddy free domain. Perfect. This is the place to be. TinyURL is another amazing option. But today, we're going to show you how to build a branded URL shortener with your own domain name so you have access to full access to it. All right. So we have someone who said, I actually don't know what about URL shortener, so we'll get into it in just a moment. Let me get rid of this banner real quick and switch out for this one. Ask me any questions in chat. All right, cool. So just to introduce myself, I am Wei. I am currently a technical program associate here at MLH Fellowship. Definitely recommend you check it out if you haven't heard of it. I use he, him pronouns. And a fun fact is I am going to be an MLH coach. So I will have a different title when you see me next. Definitely follow me on GitHub or Discord. Feel free to chat with me if you have any questions after the session. All right, sounds good. Let's jump to the next one. Okay, yeah, definitely check into this session. I specifically made a slide for this so that folks don't forget to check in. Let me go ahead and share the link. Check in at. All right. Here is the link. I also shared it in chat, so you can just click on it. I just want to make sure everybody gets your points. Check into the event. I got my points. Let me know once you've done it in chat so we can move forward. And thank you so much. Thingiverse. And I do. It is Waycodes at Waycode. Are we going to do it from scratch? Yes, we are. All right. So has anybody checked in yet? Let me know in chat. By the way, how is the music? Let me know if it's too quiet or too loud. Perfect. Thank you, everybody, for confirming. Okay. All right. I won't click on everybody. Let's jump to the next slide. All right. So here is a overview for our workshop. So first, we're going to learn about URL redirection and how they work. Next, we're going to build our own URL shortener in just a few dozen lines. 1 dozen lines. You can count. Or you can check me after the session, make sure I got it right. We're going to learn about manage and deployment of our URL shortener. And afterwards, if you haven't registered a GoDaddy domain already, we will register a domain name and link it to your URL shortener. And the best part is it will be completely free. All right, the hosting will be completely free, and the domain from GoDaddy is free for 1 year. So be sure to utilize those free resources. It's good to see you, 404. Thanks for coming. All right. So first of all, why do we need URL shortener? Let's take a look at a couple examples, what we're building today. All right. So just as an example, Global Hack Week has a form where you can submit challenges, right? But the form link is so long, it makes it very difficult for you to share, and it's unbranded. So what Global Hack Week did was they created a hackp.ac/GHW form, right? If you remember seeing that in some of the daily challenges, right? So once you go to GHW form, it is then redirected to a type form URL that is, quite ugly, to be honest. But it has everything you need, right? So that's one use case of URL shortener. It is to redirect from a branded URL to a lengthy URL that people do not want to remember. And if you're running an event like Global Hack Week or your hackathons, maybe you have other resources that you want to share with people. So, for example, maybe wayhacks.co/devpost. You can redirect that to your devpost link. You can have a /check-in, /referral, /survey, for example, to send people to different links that are tied to your organization event. For your personal branding, on the other hand, you can also have like /Discord, /Twitter, GitHub, LinkedIn. Maybe you have a blog. Maybe you have a YouTube channel. You can have everything branded under your short URL, under your domain name. So that is kind of where I feel URL shorteners really shine. All right. Cool. So those are some use cases I can think of. Let me know if you have anything you want to share. But let's keep going and take a quick look at different ways to redirect a URL. So take an example of the GHW form that we were just looking at. Let me actually share my other window so that we can actually inspect what is happening behind the scenes. Okay, give me just a moment. stop sharing and start sharing. Okay. Here is my terminal. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. So actually, let me add it to the screen because you can't really see it just yet. Here is my terminal. What we can do is to run a curl command. And actually, how can I do this? Remove the banner real quick so you can see the full terminal, right? So what we can do is curl hackp.ac / GHW form. That is an example I wanted to show. And we can actually use the key or the flag called verbose to actually inspect the full request and response for this URL. Okay. So once I run that, you see a bunch of stuff has returned, and we'll kind of go through it real quick. I'm trying to connect to hackp.ac, and if we keep going, you can see it's kind of negotiating with the server, trying to establish an HTTP2 connection. And here is the most important part of the response. So here, 200 OK is what the server has responded. And if you keep going down, you will see a meta tag. So HTML is returned, right? Along with a meta tag. And the meta tag says refresh. Content 0, URL, and that is our typeform URL we saw earlier. Okay, so this is one of the ways you can redirect. The advantage of doing it this way is that you can easily just return HTML, just return a web page with a head meta tag that is with a HTTP equiv refresh and some content. In addition, the advantage you have is you can actually inject a Google Analytics or other analytics scripts on this page, so you can track page views and track the various visitor visits. You can also have a meta tag for open graph tags, so that when people share your link, they will actually receive some meaningful text, title, content, description, etc. So that is one way of doing the redirection. Let me check chat if anybody has any questions. All right, perfect. Another way we can redirect is using HTTP header. I will actually find an example for you. Okay. Here is an example. bit.ly link that some of you have shared earlier. We're going to do the verbose as well. So here's a bit.ly link I found on the web. And once I hit enter, you can see a bunch of output as well. Very similar. You can see an HTTP2 connection has been negotiated. And instead of 200, we're actually seeing 301. So 301 means permanent redirect. I will actually show you very briefly on my slides as well. And if you can see here, it is redirecting to a location header. So through the location header, it's going to tell the browser to take you to this page. All right, and the browser will take that and head over to that page for you. There are two different ways to do it. Let me share my slides once more so we can get some more details on what those two redirection methods look like. Where's my window now? Okay, there it is. Okay. So here are the two ways that we just mentioned. Here it is. we have the location HTTP header with a redirect HTTP status code. So the example bit.ly we saw was 301 moved permanently. You can also have 302, 307, 308. I recommend 307 and 308 because they work for post requests as well. But that's outside the scope of this project. So that's the only difference that I can remember. Correct me if I'm wrong. So here's an example. The server can return 307 temporary redirect, and it can return a location. And the first method we actually saw was including a HTML meta tag in the head of the returning HTML content. And all you have to do is to do HTTP equip refresh content 0 and the URL. All right, cool. So we have some helpful command line messages in or comments here. This is perfect for Bash, right? Windows Terminal. Highly recommend trying that out for yourself. Be sure to use the verbose to see the full request and response. All right, cool. Any questions, please drop them in chat and we will get to it. Cool, let us get started. So we're going to start building. Let me get to my GitHub. All right. All you have to do, if you want to follow along, please feel free to follow along. If not, we will be sharing the project right after and you can fork it. All right. So first step, go to repo.new. This is a shorthand for the GitHub repo creation page. All right. And we are going to call it shorty, maybe. All right, I'm going to call it shorty. You can call it something else if you'd like. And for git ignore, we're going to write a Node.js script. So let's just choose the Node git ignore template real quick and add a README file. Why not? All right. So once you go to repo.new, this is actually a short URL as well. Go to repo.new, pick a repository name, add README file, and for the git ignore template, select Node. Let me know once you have done that. Okay, perfect. Thank you for confirming, folks. Docs.new is a that is a perfect URL. I haven't used that very much. I've been doing it a long way, so I definitely will try that out. Okay, short me, nice. All right, so it looks like many of you have done this. So once you're on your repo page, make sure you have two files. You should have a git ignore file and a readme file. Okay. All right. So the next step is let's just go to code spaces. All right. So click code spaces, and let's just create a code space on main. This will open up a VS Code in the cloud that is, running on Azure, I believe, and it's completely free. So be sure to check that out. Click code, open code space. Do let me know once you have the code space open. It's going to take a few moments. Let me zoom in. Okay, perfect. And let me change this to the dark mode. Dark, no. There it is. Please let me know once you see the same thing I am. By the way, CodeSpace is really, really nice for just prototyping and developing new applications in an isolated environment because everything is self-contained and it has all the dependencies for major programming languages already installed. So you don't have to worry about any type of dependency problems or installation environment problems. So highly recommend it. All right, please give me a chat once you see your GitHub code space. You can also do this locally if you have Node.js installed, but I recommend doing it in CodeSpace. Let's just double check. We do have Node version 20 installed. Wow, this is pretty edge. All right, we have a few folks letting us know. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so now let's initialize the project. For any Node project, you will typically use npm init to initialize the project, and that's what we will do. So type in npm init, and you will be given a prompt to create a package.json file. For the most part, just kind of press enter, enter all the way down. We don't really have to worry about any of that. So let's just keep going and hit OK. Enter all the way down, and you will see a package.json file right here. It should look something like this. Doesn't really matter. You can go back and update some of the fields if you'd like. We do have a pro tip here. Do npm init-y. That sounds amazing. Let me actually try that right now. npm init-y. Beautiful. Love it. Thanks for sharing. The command is on the screen right now, npm init-y. Let me get my banner back. Ask any questions in chat. Okay. So now we have a npm or package.json file. We have, that should be all you need for now. All right, next, let's create a file that we can use to kind of store our URL shortening configurations. So let's call it redirects, since we're doing URL redirection, right? So we'll call it redirects.yaml, right? We're going to create a YAML file because the syntax is a little bit easier than JSON, especially when like making pull requests and stuff like that. You don't have to worry about commas, brackets, etc., quotes. So let's create a file called redirects.yaml, and this file will contain all URL redirections. Okay. Redirects.yaml. And the first URL redirect I'm going to create is going to be maybe GHW. And GHW should go to, all right, globalhackread.mh.io. I mean, this URL isn't really terribly long, but let's find another example. This is a very good example. URL for my session, the check-in link. So I can create another short URL called check-in, and check-in should go to our full check-in link here. You can pick anything you want. You can do google.com if you'd like, but I'm going to have these two examples for now. Okay. Let me know if you have created a redirects file and populate it with at least one redirect. In the meantime, drop any questions you may have. And let me actually commit and push to my repo so you can refer to it if you'd like. Add package.json and redirects.yaml. Right? Commit. Actually, I need to stage and commit, push. Okay. And if you'd like to follow along, you can also kind of look at my repository here, which will have the updates I just made. All right, so here is the project repo. Cool. So yeah, does everybody have 4 files in their directory now? All right. So the next file I am going to create is going to be our main file. We're going to call it main script, and we're going to call it index.js, since that's what we defined in package.json, right? So let's create an index.js. So what we're going to do is to use the second method. All right, so we're going to actually use the second method that we talked about, adding an HTML meta tag in the head. And we're actually going to use the same method that MLH uses for their hackp.ac short URL shortener. So ultimately, what we're going to do is we're going to create a directory called a dist, basically this release code, distribution code. And inside there, we're going to create an HTML file for every single short URL here. So for GHW, we're going to create a HTML page called GHW. And for check-in, we're going to create an HTML page for check-in. And inside that HTML page, we're going to have our HTML content with the meta tag. Hope that makes sense. All right, so we have a question here. Which method is better? It depends on your use case. If you are planning to share your URL with others, maybe on Discord, on Twitter, etc., the second method is definitely better, because you can also include what's called open graph tags in your HTML that can really augment your post. So you can define like a title, you can have a graphic image, you can have other things, and you can have tracking, Google Analytics, for example. So I highly recommend the second method. But if you're doing redirect for like an application link that you're not planning to share with other people, you definitely need to use the method number 1, because otherwise, your application might break. Method number 2 only works for browsers, whereas number 1 works for browsers and like internal application requests. Hope that helps. Okay. So now, we kind of talked about what we're going to do. We're going to create basically an HTML file for every redirect we have. And inside the HTML file, we're going to have a meta tag that specifies the destination of the redirect, right? So let's create a template. Let's just call it like a template.html. This will be the template HTML that every page will kind of model from. And inside the template.html, we're just going to have some bare bones HTML code. Basically, I'm going to grab this URL here. Okay, so that is going to be what we have in the template HTML. I'll just make everything in one line and share this with you. Actually, I'll just copy this and paste it in chat, so you can also pop this into your template.html. And once you've done that, let me know in chat. So in the index, we'll kind of outline what we're going to do. Load all the URLs from redirects.yaml file. Generate an HTML page for each redirect URL from template.html. And so those are the 2 things we're going to do. Let me know if you have any questions. Does that make sense? All right. Let me know if that makes sense or not. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is to load all the URLs from redirects.yaml. And in order to load YAML, we do need one package. Okay. Thank you, Rahul Twitch. All right. Thank you for letting me know. Perfect. So we're going back to the index.js. Do let me know if I'm going a little bit too fast. We can definitely take it a little bit slower. All right. Thanks, everybody, for confirming. So the first thing we're going to do is to load all the URLs from redirects.yaml. And in order to load YAML, we need to install a package called YAML. So we're going to do npm install npm install YAML. That is the name of the package. npm install YAML. Would it be possible to get a link to the GitHub repo? Yes, we do have the GitHub repo shared. If you scroll up just a little bit, you will see it. And at the end of the session, I will be sharing our slides link as well. All right, perfect. So run npm install YAML if you have not already. I'm going to run it now. And voila, it's installed. That should be the only package we need for this project. So let's take a look. And you can import, or you can require the package by doing something like YAML. We'll use all caps for the convention, require YAML, right? So this should be all you need to install or to require YAML in your project after you install it here. By the way, let me actually stage and commit my code so whoever's following along can take a look. Add index.js and template.html. Commit and push. You don't have to do that. So now you should be able to see it when you go to my repo here. Okay, so we have required a YAML. Next, what we're going to do is to read the file. In order to read the file, we need the FS system package. This is how Node.js interacts with system files, with this file system. All right, so here it is, FS. So now all I need to do is to first read the file and then parse it out using YAML. Let me go ahead and do that real quick. Redirect file equals fs.read files link. We're going to do this real quick. And then I know some of you are using Windows. I mean, you shouldn't be using Windows if you are using code spaces, but just to be safe, we're going to require a package called path. This is to kind of remove the anomalies between Windows and Linux file systems. So we're going to require path. So we have 3 requires. These are all the only 3 packages we'll need for this workshop. Right. Let me know if you have this written down in your index.js. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to specify our file path here. The file path is a current directory, and the file name is redirects.yaml. So we can do something like underscore directory name, kind of getting the current directory, and then the file name, redirects.yaml. So this should return us the file. And then lastly, we need to specify the encoding for the file. In this case, we're just going to specify UTF-8. So that should be all you need to retrieve the file contents. How did the dist folder come? Don't worry about it for now. I'm going to delete it. It's just a name I picked. It's just a name I picked. All right, we have a very good question. What is the difference between read file and read file sync? That is a very good question. So in JavaScript, if you use fs.read file, you have to listen for the callback to do things. So for example, this same line can be written as read file, redirects file, actually. This same line can be written as this. So then you can write your subsequent code in the callback function. Read file sync basically makes it so that we wait for the file to come back and assign to this variable. Whereas read file, you have to listen for it in the callback function because reading a file takes a little bit of time. So hopefully that helps. That's a kind of a quick overview of what that's about. Is there one or two underscores? There are two underscores here under the dir name. This is a system variable that Node.js adds to the runtime. Yeah, async await. All right, so we have the redirects file. Let's actually make sure we actually have it by doing a log. We can kind of log it out. All right, so once you save it, you should be able to just run, maybe just run this. Let's see if this works. Okay, so you can use the run and debug button here to run and debug, or you can just write node index.js to run the index file under terminal. I recommend just doing it in terminal just to make it simple. All right, so now you can see that when we console log redirects file, we actually have the two links that I have previously added to the redirects.yaml. Let me go ahead and stage and commit that. Read redirects file, push, okay. Yes, this will be recorded for later. Never used YAML. Is it better than JSON? I don't think it's better than JSON, but for the purpose of like adding configuration and stuff, this is simpler than JSON because for JSON, you have to do brackets, you have to do quotes, right? And then you have to do another quote. And that's not the problem. The problem is like, if you're kind of working in somebody else's repository and you want to add a line here, you have to first modify this line and then add your line. So this results in 2 line changes. It's just kind of nitpick, right? It results in 2 line changes versus a 1-line change in YAML. That's the only reason I picked YAML. And that's the reason like most configuration files are written in YAML. Please repeat the read file sync part again. Do you just want to look at it, or do you want me to kind of explain what the difference between read file and read file sync? Let me know. Okay, so everybody should have this. The next step is to kind of parse the file. So we have the raw file. This is just text, right? We want to convert it to a JavaScript object so that you can actually interact with it easily. And that's where the YAML package comes in. And all you have to do is we're going to create a variable called redirects. And we just need to do yaml.parse redirects file. Okay. And we can actually console log this out as well, just to see. Just adding one line, yaml.parse. Okay. Yeah, so while here, let me commit this as well. Parse YAML. All right, we do have a couple questions on read file and read file sync. I did not do a good job of explaining it. So let me phrase it one more time, this way maybe. So read file takes some time, right? If you think about it, when you're trying to read a file, you have to go into the file system, right? The code has to go into the file system, look for the file, read the disk, load the file back out, and then make it available for your application. Read file sync. Sync means synchronous. It means the code will kind of get stuck here while we wait for it to load the file, to read the file, okay? So this could take a little bit longer depending on your hard drive and other system resources, right? So this could take a little bit longer. We don't really care since we just have one little file. It's super tiny and it's super easy to read and it's super fast. But if you have tons of files, you might want to do things in your application while you wait for the file to be read. Okay, so maybe you can do some other processing while the file system, while you're reading the file from the file system, and that's when the read file comes. All right, so read file basically does not make you wait for the file to be read before the code can continue to execute. Hope that helps. If not, I can send some more resources afterwards, and we can learn more about callbacks and asynchronization in JavaScript. Okay, is there another way to commit files? All right, I will show you how to commit files using the command line after this. All right, so I haven't run the code yet since I made the update. Let me just run the code once more. And you can see the color has changed. We are now outputting a JavaScript object. And you can see the object contains two key value pairs, GHW to this link and my check-in to this link. Right? That's perfect. And that's step one, actually. So we are done with step one. We have loaded all the URLs from redirects.yaml. Oh, I'm glad you liked repo.new. Okay, so let me know, folks, if you successfully retrieved the YAML file and you're able to see the key value pairs in your console, in your output, terminal output, when you run node index.js. Okay. I have also shared the code in the GitHub repo. Let me just post it one more time if you would like to just follow along from there. Here it is one more time. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to generate an HTML page for each redirect URL from the template. All right, so we have the template. The first thing we'll need to do is load the template. And that is super easy to do because we have the code already here to load the redirects. So all we have to do is copy paste and change it to template.yaml. And this will give us the template HTML file. We'll call it template HTML. Okay. Let me know if you are following. Did I spell it wrong? Okay, yes. Thank you for helping me out there. Template.html. Okay. So we have the template.html. Okay, so we have a question before I jump into that. How does path.join work? Okay, path is a system package of npm, all right, system npm package. And the way path join works is irrespective of what operating system you have, it's going to join the path in a way that makes sense for your operating system. So in Windows, it might be a different slash than, like, say, Linux, right? So all I have to do is to supply the URL, the directory name here, in this case, whichever directory is running this code, and the file name. Path join will automatically show us or generate us a valid URL. So let me actually just do a console log for you so you can see exactly what's coming out. Path for redirects for YAML, I'll just say that. Okay. And once we run the code, you will actually see the path for YAML is, workspaces/shorty/redirects.yaml. And depending on your operating system, it's going to look a little bit different. Hope that helps. Thanks for answering. Okay. Are we on the same page? Give me a thumbs up if you are following along. Okay, let me actually commit this in case anybody wants to refer to it. All right, we got some thumbs ups. I really appreciate it. In that case, I will wait, just write a few more lines before I commit. All right, so now we have loaded the template HTML. So what we need to do next is to loop through all URL redirects and generate a new generate an HTML page. So in order to loop, we need to do a we'll do a for loop. Okay, so redirects is an object we saw earlier. It looks like this. There's a shorthand in JavaScript that lets us loop through an object easily, and the way to do that is, let me just write it out and then we can explain. Slug URL of object dot entries redirects. Okay, so this is how you would one of the easiest ways to loop through an object in JavaScript. Object dot entries will basically convert this object into an array. Each element of the array will have the key, which in this case /GHW, as the first element in the array. Yes, in the array. And then the value will be the second item in the array. So in this case, let me actually print this out as well so you know exactly what you're getting. Okay. Okay, save and run. All right, so you can see we're getting an array of arrays. All right, for each key, we now have an key value array in the overall array. So that lets us do something like this. For each item in the redirect, we are extracting slug and URL from it. Okay, I think that's a little bit too verbose, what I mentioned, but hope that helps a little bit. So we can then do something like generating HTML page for slug. Okay, that makes it a little bit easier. And let me print it out. Let me just run the code, and you can see for the loop we have, we're going to generate it first for GHW and then for the /check-in. Okay, let me actually commit this. I will actually show folks how it's done in command line. The first thing I like to do is to just check git status. Once you do git status, you will see, what files have changed. In this case, index.js has changed. So we're going to add it. We're going to stage this file. Now, if we do a git status again, you will see green because it has been staged. Right. Now we can do a commit. And in this case, I'm just going to supply the commit message directly in the command using -m. Loop through redirects. Okay, that's what I'm going to call it. And it has been committed, loop through redirects. And all I have to do is do a git push to push it up to GitHub. So that's the command line way of committing, pushing to GitHub. Okay. Okay, so is everybody with me so far? What we're going to do here, loop through all URL redirects, and we're going to generate an HTML page for every slug that we have. We're going to call it slugs. All right. Before we can save the HTML page, right? We need to kind of load it from the template. If you look at the template, it has the URL called example.com. And that is not the URL that we want. This is a template after all. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another variable called HTML for this specific slug. And we're going to do a replace all. So we're going to do template.html, replace all, and we're going to put example.com. And we'll replace that with the URL that's kind of supplied in your redirects file. Now we're going to print it out. Just make sure it's correct. We'll just run node index.js once more. And you can see our logs. So we're generating for GHW, and we have the correct HTML content, right? You can see the URL has been changed. And for check-in, we also see the URL has been changed. So that's perfect. And let me commit this as well. So you can load it for whoever is following along on my GitHub. Replace HTML template. This might be a little bit too excessive, by the way. You don't have to commit this much when you're developing your own projects. Okay, so now we have the HTML file. And the last part is we need to save it to a directory. I know I mentioned dist. Maybe not everybody knows what dist means. In that case, we'll just use a simpler folder name called out. Basically, we want to kind of generate everything in a folder so we don't get cluttered with everything else that we have going on in the GitHub repo and in the directory. So we're going to say folder path is path.join. We'll do the same thing, directory name. We're actually going to join it with a directory called out. And lastly, we're going to join it with the slug. So every slug will have its own directory, and that will be the path for it. Once we have the folder path, let's make the directory. And in this case, we'll do the mkdir, which is make directory sync as well. And for the same reason, we're doing a sync for read file. And the only other thing to keep in mind is we're going to create the folder recursively. This means like if there's not an out folder, it's going to create the out folder first before it creates the slug folder, just to kind of eliminate some problems down there. Okay. Create folder for each slug. Let me copy this into the code or into the chat here in case you are following along. You can paste them in. All right, once you have it, you can just run this node index.js once more, and you will see a directory called out. And inside out, we have GHW and check-in. Let me know if you see any folders in your out directory once you run this code. We'll give everybody a minute. We are almost done, actually, so please bear with me. Works perfectly. Love to hear it. Okay, looks like a lot of you have really done it. Beautiful. Okay, do let me know if you need more time though. All right, so we have two directories here, in this case, GHW and check-in. All we have to do is to create the HTML file. We're going to name the HTML file index.html. Does anybody know why we're naming it index.html, or what is the index.html typically used for? Home page, main page, default page. Everybody's right. Yeah, that is the entry point. So basically, with most web servers, if you are accessing a directory, for example, /GHW, it doesn't know like which file you're trying to access, right? Which HTML file to serve. So what a lot of web servers do is they automatically look for the index.html. So if there is an index.html, that is the file that's going to be served to the user. And that's what we're going to do here. And that's exactly what we're looking for, actually. So when people access /GHW, we want them to load the index.html under each of the select directory and serve that to the users. So here is the last step. The last line we're going to write, believe it or not, is fs.writeFileSync. And in here, we're going to do a path.join, similar to what we've done before. We're going to do folder path and then join it with index.html. And the last thing we're going to do is to supply it with the HTML, right? So the actual HTML content is going to be saved in each slugs directory under the index.html file. Yep, this is the last line we're going to write today, believe it or not. Here it is in chat. If you would like to copy paste it. All right. While you're getting that in, I'm going to run node.index.js. And we can see that under the check-in and GHW folders, we now have index.html. And if you look at the content, they look perfect. Let me go ahead and commit this. I'm going to just copy my message here, create an injection in each slug directory, and push. Okay, so my code has been pushed. If you'd like, you can actually fork it now, since it's a complete solution, believe it or not. But if you're running it yourself, just be sure you have an out directory and you have 2 files, check-in and GHW. Those are for me. Based on my redirects file, you might have something different. All right, let me know in chat if you have it. Okay, we got a yippee. Done, perfect. Okay, so now let's actually run a web server against the out directory. So let's run a web server for the out directory. Does anybody have any suggestions? Like, how would you kind of start a web server to serve files inside the out directory? I'm just curious, see if anybody has any suggestions. Express is a very powerful framework for serving files for sure. But I am actually going to do something a little bit simpler. Nginx is also a very good one. Since we have Node already installed in our system, we're just going to use a package called HTTP server. That's one that I've used before. That's actually pretty easy to use. So all you have to do is to install the HTTP server. I wonder if you can do npx, actually. Let's try it. npx HTTP server out. Yes, okay. So you can actually just run this command, npx HTTP server out. So this will serve files in the out directory. And we're going to say yes, okay to proceed. And boom, your code space should prompt you that your application is running. Okay, what is the difference between npm and npx? npm is the package manager. So you use npm to install different packages, remove different packages, and things like that. npx is kind of a shorthand for installing and running npm packages. So you can actually register custom commands with npx, I believe. I've never done it, but that's how I think it works. And for example, for HTTP server, they have registered a command HTTP server with npx, and npx will then automatically download HTTP server and run it without you having to install yourself first. Hope that helps. All right, let me know if your application is running also, but I am going to open in browser. It will take a couple seconds, and you should see the contents of your out directory. Let me zoom in real quick. This is the same thing I see when I look in code spaces, right? You should see the 2, checking and GHW. Okay, where will this recording be posted? It will be posted on MLH's Twitch channel as well as YouTube channel. We will share that after the session. Or you can check back after the session, and it should be under past broadcasts or recordings. All right, thanks for confirming it works for you. So now all you have to do is to click on them, right? If you click on GHW, or you can put GHW in the URL, the redirect should happen automatically, right? So now you can see once I put the GHW in the URL, it just worked. I can try the checking link, and it worked as well. So do let me know if it's working for you. And if you haven't already, you can fork my project to follow along with the next step that we're going to do. Since we're pretty much done with the coding part of it. You can fork it now if you'd like. Or you can continue using the version that you have if you've been following. Yes, happy birthday, Rash. Working. We are not done yet, because if you see this URL, this is a very ugly URL. That's really only meant for development purposes on code spaces, right? We need to host this URL somewhere. We need to host this somewhere. Okay. How are we going to host it somewhere? The easiest thing I can think of is using GitHub Pages. Has anyone used GitHub Pages before? You can definitely use Vercel, for sure. But we're going to use GitHub Pages. Netlify, yes, you can do all that. You can do all that for sure. Okay, so we're going to use GitHub Pages. Go to your repo settings page if you haven't already. Fork my repo. If you're still working on it, here, fork my repo, or use yours. Okay, so we're going to go to settings real quick, and we're going to turn on GitHub Pages. So GitHub Pages is a fantastic way to host static files, a static site, just like this, right? So let's actually select GitHub Actions under the GitHub Pages menu, okay? GitHub Actions. All right, let me know once you have that selected. Give me a thumbs up. Okay. This is completely free, and I think GitHub also uses a CDN, so your site will load blazing fast. Highly recommend it for any static site use cases. Okay, do give me a thumbs up if you have enabled GitHub Pages under your GitHub repo. Select GitHub Actions under Source. Okay, I appreciate it. Okay. So we're not going to use these examples. Actually, let's think about it. Let me take a quick look at this example and see if we can use it. Okay, this is a pretty good example. So once you have selected GitHub Actions, let's select static HTML. So we're going to deploy static files in a repository without a build. I know this one doesn't come with a build, but we will actually run our node index.js. This is essentially our build code, right? The code that runs our build process, and it generates a folder called out, and out has all our static files. So we're going to start with our static HTML template, and all we have to do is to add the node build. So click the configure real quick, and you can rename this YAML file if you'd like. You don't have to. Okay. And we're going to edit this file together. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is rename this to deploy URL redirects. Deploy URL redirect. Okay, we're not going to touch on. So basically this says runs on every push to the main branch, which is fine. It also allows you to run this manually from Actions tab, which is fine. We're going to leave those. We're going to set some permissions so that the GitHub Actions runner have access to the content of the repo. It has access to writing to GitHub pages. So we won't change this either. Allow only one concurrent deployment. We won't change this either. I think that sounds fine. So far, we've only changed the name, right? Okay, so if we look through the jobs, we have a deploy job, and it runs on Ubuntu, which is perfect. That's the same thing we use for our code space. And there are 4 steps if you look through. We have checkout the repo, we're setting up the pages, we're uploading the artifact, and we're deploying to GitHub pages. Okay, so that all looks fine. We do need to add our build process because our out folder, if you remember, is not committed to the repo. Okay, that's one thing to keep in mind. The out folder is not, the out directory is not in the repo. It's generated by running our index.js. So what we need to do is to run that. And it's actually very easy to run index.js by just using, I think we just need 2 steps here. In the GitHub Actions Marketplace, we can search for Node. And you can see here, set up Node.js environment, right? And if you scroll down, there are some examples on how this is done. Most of the parameters are optional. Okay, so we're just going to copy it. And we'll just do it after we check out our repository. We'll make sure the indentation is correct. I'll add some comments here. Build our or generate our out directory by running node index.js, right? All right, so once we set up the Node.js environment, actually, let's specify a version just in case something goes wrong with the default version. And if we look at our code space, our Node version is 20.8. So we'll just use the same version since it's working for us in code spaces. It should work for us here. And then the next step is we just need to kind of run the code. I think it's called runs node index.js. That is our build script. It's not called run, it's called run, not runs. Okay. So here is the block of code that we added. After we check out the repo, we are setting up our Node.js environment, and we are running node index.js. Let me know in chat if you have any questions. Okay, in the meantime, I will commit this so you also have access to this. Create static.yaml. Perfect. Okay. So if you go to my repository now, you should see a file under .github/workflows/static.yaml. And inside there, you will see the GitHub action that we just created together. Here's the piece of code that we added. I will actually include the full link to it, make it easier. Oh, I misspelled static. Oops. But here's the link. The link is correct. All right, please let me know in chat once you have created a static.yaml file in your directory, in your GitHub repo. Okay, that's not good. Okay. Okay. Perfect. If you're looking at what I'm looking at, it looks like my actions run has failed. And if we look at the source code here, it says cannot find module YAML. All right, so the YAML package is not found. This means I forgot to run npm install before running my node script. Let me fix that real quick. All you have to do is do npm install. I think we can do something like this to make a multi-line. Okay, so this will give us the YAML package. npm install will actually pick up the packages from package.json, and node script will run against it, with it. All right, so here it is. I apologize for that. So here is the piece of code that I have modified. Please take a look and make the correction on your end. All right, do let me know if you have this done. How do I do multi-line? You just press enter. Make sure you have this pipe symbol here, and then you can have multiple lines in your run command. All right, we have a question here. How often do you do these? Me personally, I do run Global Hack Week sessions. I try to do one at every Global Hack Week session, but feel free to check out our website, ghw.mlh.io, if you want to check out all the amazing sessions that we have going on. There's actually a very cool session about open source contributing to the React project right after this, so you wouldn't want to miss it. What does pipe do? So this basically enables run to have multiple lines. This is kind of a syntax for YAML. So this is actually a YAML file, right? Some of you asked, who prefers YAML versus JSON. This is the syntax for YAML file. This is the syntax for multi-line. I don't even think you can do like a multi-line in JavaScript in JSON. So this is a plus. We have a question on working on some sort of GitHub action. Would you be able to guide me? Feel free to chat on Discord. We have some amazing mentors and peers who can help you out. And I will also jump in if you have anything that I can help out with. Okay, so we do have this. Please let me know in chat. I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. If you have any trouble, feel free to delete your repo and fork my repo once more. And that will give you the latest updates. Okay. We'll wait just for just a minute here before we move forward. We're almost done, by the way. There's no more code. Oh, yes. Thank you for that note, Thinkverse. We do need to make this one update. The path is the out directory. Okay, so please note this in your project. Okay, here it is. This is the last update you will need to make. It's getting a little bit hot here. Let me go ahead and turn on my fan. Okay, so everyone, once you have this repo ready with the workflow, I'm just going to show you how to check whether it ran successfully. All you have to do is go to your Actions tab, and you should see a update static.yaml file. That is my latest commit. You might have something different. And under deploy, you will see a URL here. And you can actually check the logs if you'd like. But if you go to this URL directly, you will be faced with file not found. However, if we add the two short URLs that we added previously, like GHW, to the end, the redirection works. We can also try my checking link. And that works as well. You can actually try it out. This URL is given by GitHub automatically based on your username and repo name. So you can always just use this. Yeah. Let me know. Let me know if it's working for you. I shared the link in chat. Rash, thanks for trying it out. There are different topics for Global Hack Weeks, so be sure to check out the website for some of the upcoming sessions. All right, it's so good to hear. Thank you so much for confirming yours is working. Great. Okay, does anybody need a little bit more time? We are almost done here. Okay, let's go back to my slides. Okay, hold on. Let me do presenter view. Okay. Let's go back to my slides. All right, so the next step is to get a domain name. If you haven't already, please get a domain name. Here are some information. We actually have a challenge at our Global Hack Week. Under the Challenges tab, let me zoom in a little bit. GHW moh.io/challenges. We'll jump right back to you and show you how to edit that file. But we do have some global hack week challenges here, and one of them is to redeem your free GoDaddy registry domain name. Note the promo code and the link to redeem. You just need to click learn more to redeem. By doing this, you will earn a point for your global hack week. So let's go ahead and get a domain name if you haven't already. If you have a domain name already, please feel free to take a break and we will come back to it. Just the last step of it is to link your custom domain name to your GitHub pages. All right, perfect. You already got your domain name. Beautiful. Here is the promo code. Make sure you use that promo code when you register. How to modify static.yaml. So you should see a little pencil icon once you open the file on GitHub. You can also modify it from your VS Code. Okay, so looks like we have folks who's gotten it already. Let's just take a 2-minute break while everybody else is getting it, and we'll come right back. All right, how are we looking? Looks like a lot of you have already redeemed it. So good job on staying ahead. Let me, let me actually figure out how, okay, there it is. Percent. Okay. So the next step I have is to link your domain name. Let me log on to my pork bun. I believe that is where the domain name is. Please follow me to your domain registration management page. By the way, this works with any domain. It doesn't have to be on here. It could be a domain that you own, maybe with your custom branding, or if you have a hackathon, you're running a hackathon, you might have an organization domain to use, right? So all you have to do is first go to the repository that you have. Where is my repository? We'll go back to our pages settings, right? So settings, GitHub pages, and insert your custom domain name here. Okay, so after clicking on get here, let's help this hacker real quick. On Global Hack Week, make sure you note down the coupon code. Looks like the coupon code has changed. So make sure you use the right coupon code, MLH GHW PCT 21. Click Learn More. Here is the new code. Okay, so here you can pick a name of your choice. So I like to use Way on Stream, and from here you can see all the domains that are available for you for free. So once you click on them, you will be taken to Pork Bun, where you will register and apply the coupon code to redeem the domain. So hope that helps. In the challenge form, do I only need to? Yes, you only need to add the URL. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. You just need to submit the URL. And that is actually my next step. Yeah, make sure you submit your Global Hack Week challenge. But you can do that after. I don't want to take away from this session here. We have our custom domain. All you have to do is to add a domain. It can be a subdomain if you want to keep your main domain pointed to something else. Like if I have my name.com, I would likely want that to be taken to my profile page, for example. So maybe I'll do something like l.wayonstream.co. That is my domain, right? Wayonstream.co, and I'm just going to do a subdomain called l. which will have all my links. Okay. You can pick your own domain name, your own subdomain, or you can use your primary domain if you'd like. That also works. There's a slightly different setup if you're using that, so we'll cover it shortly. Once you pick your domain name, you just need to hit save. So do let me know if you have saved it. There is one step after you save here. Okay, you'll see an error message that says the domain is improperly configured. All right, the domain is improperly configured. If the code does not work, please try this code here, MLH GHW PCT 21. The code I shared earlier expired, so I apologize for that. Okay, it says it's improperly configured. So let's take a quick look at our documentation link, and here say verifying your custom domain for GitHub pages. Okay, hold on. Let's go to custom domains in GitHub pages. So this page kind of explains how custom domains work, how Apex domains work, meaning the domain name without any prefix or suffix. So this explains how Apex domains work. And then if we go to manage custom domain, it kind of tells you how to manage everything. But here are some of the instructions. But since I've read through this already, we'll just kind of follow along with what I'm about to tell you. Makes it a little bit easier. Let me just go back to my repo settings here. All right. Once you have determined the domain, subdomain that you would like to use, it's okay if it doesn't work right now. Please message on the Discord server, and I'm sure a team member will be able to help you. Okay, so take a note of this URL here. My GitHub username is worker, so it's worker.github.io. But you can pick, you just make sure you copy your github.io URL. And once you have that, you will go to Porkbun and manage your DNS. Since I am using a subdomain, I am going to put L as the host, since it's l.wayonstream.com, .co. And I'm going to create a CNAME record. Note, this is all in their documentation. I'm just kind of going through it fast so that you don't have to go through their documentation. Okay, so CNAME, if you pick the subdomain, you put your subdomain here and make sure you put an answer here as your GitHub username.github.io. This is what I'm going to do here. So do let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to hit add real quick, and it's added. I have some other records going on here. You don't have to worry about it. But here is the main record that I added. CNAME, l.wayonstream.co, worker.github.io. If you are using the Apex domain, meaning just how do you open this panel? Thanks for asking. So hover over your domain name and you should see a DNS link. And that is how you open the panel. So for me, CNAME, L dot, and then my GitHub username, worker.github.io. If you're using Apex domain, meaning you don't want to use any subdomain, you just want to use WayOnStream, for example, that will work too. All you have to do is to choose the alias record. This is going to be a CNAME flattening record. Different providers call it different things, but you will enter the same thing in the answer field as well. So do this if you are using your Apex domain, and use CNAME if you are using a subdomain. Hope that helps. Subdomain can be any. Yes, you just need to make sure you add the same subdomain here in GitHub. You just need to make sure it matches up. Okay, I'm going to check again to let GitHub know that I have made the updates. So this is now check in progress. What do you need to do to avoid the 404 file not found? We'll go to that in just a moment. WayOnStream.co, WayOnStream.co matches up, and I am using the subdomain. Checking one more time. Did I spell it wrong? What I typically do is I use a website called DNS Checker. I just want to make sure I have configured the records correctly. And on DNS Checker, you can actually check for various types of records. In this case, I need to check the CNAME record, and I just wanted to make sure it is resolving to the correct domain name, and it is. You can see that we have a check mark everywhere. So I need to check it one more time. Okay, looks like the TLS certificate is being provisioned, so we'll just wait a little bit. All right, thanks for Skiddy for jumping in to help. This is in the correct answer indeed. There's no index.html under your out directory. So if you do /GHW, it will redirect. Okay, so let's go to my URL real quick just to see if it worked. I should see the 404 page. Yes, I do see the 404 page. That's perfect. However, if I do /GHW, I expect it to take me to the Global Hack Week homepage. And that worked as well. Beautiful. All right. Do let me know in chat how it's working with your domain name. I just want to make sure you don't have any questions or you're not stuck on anything. Now, let me go ahead and add some more redirects. I know some of you mentioned you want the slides, right? Let me go ahead and grab the URL for my slides and pop it in. Where's my code here? Here it is. I can pop it in. I can do slides and commit. What's cool is I can actually create a pull request. So this is super, super useful if you're working with other people or if you're managing it yourself using Git, right? Other people can make pull requests, maybe to your organization's URL shortener, and people can approve or deny requests by just merging or rejecting pull requests. So I'm going to create a pull request, and I'm going to call it add slides short URL. And when I look at files changed, the only thing changed is adding the slides. You can go ahead and merge that. Once I merge it, I can go to actions just to see, see the build happen in real time. So I can go to it and see the deployment happening in real time. So we'll just watch this, watch the logs as it's doing the job. You can see that we found 3 URLs in our redirects, and we're generating HTML pages for each of them, and deployment complete. So now you should be able to just go to my website /slides to access my beautiful slides. This makes sharing so much easier. See, now I can just do my domain /slides for you to have access to my slides. Super easy. All right, I can actually now also edit my link here. I can say slides, repo. Let me actually add another one for my repo. I can add another URL for my repo. Feel free to make a pull request if there's anything else you would like to add to my redirects, to my shorty redirect service. I can do something like repo. And now we have that as well. Cool. All right. It looks like a lot of you have gotten it to work. My access expired. Oops, here it is. I have SSL served for my domain, but it's still unprotected. So GitHub pages should automatically create a certificate for your domain, you can actually see it here in Force HTTPS. It will actually do that automatically for you. It might take up to 30 minutes, so be sure to check back. Okay, let's keep going and wrap this up. Be sure to submit your Global Hack Week challenge to earn some points. I know a lot of you have registered for the domain name, so be sure to click this to register your domain name and go to the GHW form to share your domain name and earn your points. It's HackPack here. Let me actually share the URL so you can click it to earn points. Okay, we have a question. It works with a subdomain, but could not get it working without one with an alias. All right, so yeah, with the alias, you just need to make sure the DNS record is added correctly with the alias record. It takes a little bit longer to propagate if you've been modifying it quite a bit. So just need to wait a little bit. It should work. All right, 2 a.m. Well, I really appreciate you for coming. Let me actually wrap it up. I'm almost done. Q&A. If you have any questions, please drop them in chat. But here's a quick recap. So during this session, you learned about URL redirection. You learned about the 2 different ways we can do it. You learned about how to write a Node.js script with just a dozen lines of code. You can do something super powerful. You can load YAML files. You can generate HTML. And you learned about how to publish a static website to GitHub pages. After that, you learned about how to register a domain name and how to manage DNS records. That is very, very useful. All these things are super, super useful for hackathons and for your future projects. So I'm so glad everyone came. Hope you learned a lot. I really appreciate it. And we do have some questions, so we'll jump through those real quick before we bounce. How can we do this with dynamic links, like a page and anyone can come in with to short a link? Yeah, so you can make an API. So there are a couple ways you can do it, right? If you're working with our project here, you can easily make an API that updates the redirects file. So someone can come to your web page, they can supply a slug and a URL, hit submit, and you can have an API that goes in and modifies this file on GitHub. And everything else after that will be automatically handled by GitHub pages. All right, Skeety, thank you so much for coming. What are MLH points? So by participating in Global Hack Week events and the live streams, you will earn points. You will receive some more information on the points in your daily email. You can also check back on our opening ceremony on Monday, which explained a little bit more about points. All right, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming. As I mentioned, it will be in your points email every day. So every day you will receive a summary of how many points you earned and the activities you have completed. You cannot use CNAME for non-subdomains, right? For Apex domain, you cannot use CNAME because of a DNS limitation, just in the kind of the specification. But you can use what's called an alias record in Porkbun. It basically mimics CNAME record, but it's not really a CNAME record. It's a record behind the scenes. So you should be able to use that. There are also some information in my slideshow. I will include a link to GitHub pages as well on what to do with Apex domains if you don't have an alias record. You can also just use a record anyways. All right, perfect. Subdomain, amazing, amazing. This video is recorded on YouTube as well as Twitch, so be sure to check those out. It asks for a code, but I can't find it in the inbox. Be sure to check your spam folder or promotions folder. Sometimes they get slipped in. Please ask on Discord if you have any questions. All right, I really appreciate everybody so much for coming. I hope you have a wonderful day. We do have another amazing session coming up, which is called Contribute to Open Source React. If you're interested in React or contributing to open source, like a large open source project, this is an amazing session to go to. With that, I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your day, evening, night. Have a good one. Happy hacking.